Al, anything tonight? We'll get started with you.
I was looking at like a lot of the names that you gave me over like the last, I don't even know how many weeks, probably the last 3, 4 weeks. And the only person that went in the first round was Nolan. Were you surprised?
I'm never surprised by that because I don't know how teams see players within the context of their schemes. Because, when I watch guys, I have to try to think in terms of the whole league because I don't work for a team.
Man, I was thinking about like you gave me a name that I definitely was looking for. London Jackson.
Landon Jackson. Yeah, well, he was
Brandon
thought to
Jackson,
be. Yeah, he was never thought to be a first round pick. You're
Oh,
talking
he
about
yeah,
wasn't.
he was.
top 40, top 50.
I never think in terms of like lists or mock
No.
drafts or where a guy gets drafted. I just think in terms of, hey, I like this player. I think he could be good in the league. That's because I don't, as you guys know, I don't do a mock, so I don't say, oh, this guy should have been a first rounder.
So how about Mac McWilliams? Let's stay on corners there. Have you gotten to see Mac McWilliams at all? Because I think he could have a sneaky important role on this team if he ends up being a player next year.
Yeah, I watch Mac McWilliams. I like him a lot. It'll be interesting to see how they view him because he played predominantly outside at Central Florida. But the year before, when he was at UAB, he played predominantly in the slot. So he has experience at both. The issue on the outside is a combination of height, only 5'10" and a quarter, and arm length, only 29 and 7/8, which, those two things combined, Frank, often make people think that the guy's not an outside corner in the league. Now, he had some really good snaps at outside corner against good players. I mean, I watched him against Iowa State. He had no problem running vertically with Jalen Noel, who's a 4.39 guy, and McWilliams was a 4.41 guy. I love the way he plays. He's physical. He's competitive. My guess is he'll be seen as a slot. I don't know that for a fact. He even had some snaps at safety, by the way, for Central Florida.
Yeah, he screams like he's a replacement for Avonte Maddox.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy, I mean, the term I always use for guys that are super competitive like that, I say outstanding playing personality. That's what the guy has. He's competitive, he's tough, he'll tackle in the run game. I mean, there's some suddenness to him. I mean, he's pretty twitchy I liked his tape.
I wanted to ask about Ty Robinson. He kind of reminds me of a player Eagles tried to get a couple years ago, Zach Allen.
Well, I think in the Eagles defense, that's the way he'd be. In other words, if he were to get early snaps, he's going to play in their base defense, and he'd be, a defensive end or a four technique. He'd play in their 5-2 front if he's going to get, early snaps. He's an interesting guy because what he does really well. I mean, he's got a strong, powerful frame. He's got outstanding grip strength. He uses his arms really well. Even though they're not long, he knows how to use them. He's got great balance and body control. He was almost never on the ground. And he's very quick right off the ball. So he knows how to work edges. If that initial quickness is stopped, at that point, he's kind of stuck. So at this point, he's not a pass rusher yet. But I think it's within him. I think that's something that you could develop down the road.
Of the guys who the Eagles drafted, which has more upside? Who could play the guard spot? Well, I know the kid Cameron Williams is a long ways away from even contributing, so I don't think it would be him. What do you think of Hinton?
Hinton was one of the most fascinating guys I watched, and I didn't know the Eagles were going to draft him. You never know. When I do these guys, I never know who's going to draft him.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, I'll think to myself, "Oh, this would be a good team for that guy." But Myles Hinton is almost 6'7". He's 323. He's got plus 34-inch arms, a big wingspan. I mean, this guy has everything you want in a left tackle in terms of size and athletic traits. But he doesn't play to those traits as often as you would like.
Well, I just want to ask you about the league more in general.
Sure.
I'll just throw this out there. Is anybody's draft that you found particularly like odd?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't look at all the teams' drafts like that, so I couldn't even tell you, what a lot of teams did until unless somebody asked me.
Okay.
But I can comment on the Bears for sure. Well, Ben Johnson is building a multi-dimensional offense. Now it's funny because I said on another show earlier this week, because people are like, "Oh my God, they took Loveland before Warren." Well, the reason is no matter what you want to say about Warren and what his potential might be and all the traits he has, he's a redundancy as far as Komet. They're the same guy stylistically. So they didn't want to draft the same guy stylistically. And in fact, I heard from someone on the Bears who I know well who heard me say that, and he said, "You nailed it. Warren's the same guy as Komet." So that's why they drafted Loveland. So now they're going to play 12 personnel with a Loveland who can line up anywhere, and Loveland and Komet. And then they drafted Luther Burden in the second round. And I'm telling you, to me, and again, I don't say things like they reached or anything because I'm not one of those people that is, as soon as you say someone reached, what you're basically saying is you're smarter than the 35 people in the organization that have been doing this their whole lives.
Mhm.
I don't do that. You know, what I might say is I have a guy evaluated differently than they do, and that's, reasonable people can see things differently. But as soon as you say they reached, you're just saying I'm smarter than they are, and that's moronic to me. But anyway, I really liked Luther Burden's tape, and it would not surprise me at all if he becomes a volume receiver in the Bears offense. And I'm not going to sit here and make predictions, but because I liked Burden so much, I could see Burden being used in the same way that he used Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit, because he's got that kind. He's actually more gifted athletically than St. Brown, who's obviously an incredibly savvy receiver. I mean, just high level understanding of how to play the position.
So the question I have really is, so now we didn't draft tight end like I thought we were. So what do we think we're going to do with Dallas Goedert?
The reason why they gave him permission to seek a trade is they wanted his agent to help them move the player. They didn't want to keep him because of the cash. Yeah, if they went more than 1 year, there'll be no guaranteed money in year two. I mean, they could go 5 years if they want. They could 10 years if they want. It's can they get out after 1 year? Always think that. When can the team get out of the contract? The years don't matter except for cap purposes. No, they're not extending him and giving more money. Thanks, Dan. The one knock we got pretty consistently is Cameron Williams. What were your thoughts on his tape?
Yeah, but he's a sixth-round pick. I mean, his tape was problematic. He's got traits again, but his trait was clearly problematic. He had a lot of issues in pass pro. But a sixth-round pick, if you end up cutting him, and no one's going to go, "Oh my God, they cut Cameron Williams." So if they took him in the third round, then we have a different conversation.
Sure.
But they took him in the sixth round. The guy's got a lot of traits. He's a physical guy. I'm just looking. If memory serves me, because I did him very early in the process.
His traits, Greg, are ridiculous. His measurables are insane.
They're crazy.
He's
6'6", 317. He's 34.5-inch arm length. He's got good wingspan. I mean, he's got plus athletic movement. He can anchor well. The problem is that he really struggled in pass protection.
Greg, how about Andrew Makuba?
I love Makuba. Makuba was one of my favorites. I mean, I liked Eminwari at number one. I could make an argument that I like Makuba more than Starks. Makuba's twitchy. He's sudden. He's a really good athlete. From what I've read, he's up to 194 because he was 186 at the combine. And because at 186, that's a little small, but this guy is aggressive. He's a better athlete than Watts. I'm sure. I know they liked Watts too, but Makuba's a better athlete. And I think Makuba just has a better feel for how they want to play in their quarters looks. I mean, he's really aggressive and competitive as a run defender, because as a run defender, what they expect their safeties to do, what they call this flow, stack, track. That's the way they want their safeties to play. It's safety's responsibility in run defense out of quarters coverage. It's flow, stack, track, and he comes down and he hits you. I mean, I love Makuba's tape. He's played a lot of football. He sees things really well. He's got good hands. He's in some ways he's kind of like Gardner Johnson. So I'm not surprised at all they took him, and I really liked his tape a lot.
When you hear somebody say, "Okay, this guy's got game speed," like Keenan Allen when he was coming out of Berkeley. He wasn't fast, but the guy obviously had an amazing career, but he wasn't fast. Can you see that on tape?
You can see when a guy and you just have to see it, and obviously it becomes a learned thing. Like I probably didn't know that when I first started, but then you just after you do it for years and years and years, you can see Like, I'll give you a perfect example of a receiver that a lot of people loved. I liked his tape too. And he ran a 4.4, okay? And everybody got really excited. It's Jalen Royals from Utah State. I forget who drafted, but he didn't. I watched his tape, and I watched him early in the process. I actually watched him before the combine because I'd heard his name from friends of mine in the business. Oh, Jalen Royals. So I watched him before the combine, and I came away liking him, but he didn't play as a 4.4 guy. Like, I could just see that on tape. Like, he was not going to be a vertical dimension. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you a very quick story. When I first started watching coaching tape, it was 1992 when we got the coaching tape. So that goes back 33 years. And I was working with Ron Jaworski then, and I was learning football from a lot of different people, but I'd never seen coaching tape because my high school growing up in Queens in New York did not have a football team. So I was a basketball and baseball player. So I never watched football coaching tape. It took me 5 or 6 years, and I'm being honest, before I even felt comfortable with what I was looking at. And to this day, I feel like every time I put tape on, I'm still learning something. But it takes a long time, to really understand, watching tape. I used to get calls from guys at the NFL Network when the NFL Network was in its infancy, writers, and say, "Hey, I really want to learn the game, and now that we have access to coaching tape," and I would say to them, I would say, look, if you're asking me honestly, I'm going to tell you this. You can't eat dinner, put your kid to bed, and then go down in your basement for 15 minutes and watch tape and think that's the way you're going to learn. I said, that's not the way it works. You got to find someone who can teach you as you're watching, because I was fortunate in that regard. But you need someone who can really teach you so you understand what you're looking at, because it's not like watching a game on TV on Sunday.
What do you think about the kid we drafted being close to like a Justin Smith clone?
The Ty Robinson kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about him. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He's going to play in the league, and he'll play with the Eagles. And he's one of those guys that'll find a way to get on the field. He's got some clear strengths, some clear limitations too at this moment in time. But he's going to be a 10-year NFL player. And from everything I've heard, the character is through the roof, like unbelievable character.